Welcome to today's lesson, which is on managing coasts. We're going to explain how hard and soft engineering can protect the coastline from the effects of physical processes such as abrasion and hydraulic action. I just want to point out a couple of these key words here. Obtrusive means whether something looks unnatural or ugly or stands out in a negative way from the landscape. And subjective refers to the fact that people might have different opinions. So some people might think that the groin in the photo looks unnatural, whereas other people might think it blends in quite nicely with the landscape. Why do we need to manage the coast? So at the coastline, we've got lots of valuable property, including people's homes and businesses, as well as lots of important transport infrastructure such as roads and railways, which when they're damaged, they need to be replaced or relocated. And you can imagine that with the damaged railway there, people can't get to work, which is going to damage the economy. There's three main options for protecting the coastline. The first one, using artificial structures to control natural processes, so generally working against nature, that's known as hard engineering. Whereas less intrusive, more environmentally friendly methods that work with natural processes to protect the coastline is known as soft engineering. An increasingly popular option that enables you to flood over low-lying land at the coast or just allowing the coastline to retreat but in a controlled way is known as managed retreat. Calculating the costs versus the benefits is important, so the government will do that before they build any coastal protection. That's known as a cost-benefit analysis. The cost of coastal engineering is increasing, and that's due to the effects of climate change. So we're seeing rising sea levels, stronger storms, which are leading to more coastal erosion, which means that we need to spend more money if we're going to protect the coastline and stop it retreating. Hard engineering is the traditional method used for protecting the coastline. It's been used for centuries. However, today it's being used a little bit less because it's expensive and it's got high maintenance costs. It interferes with natural processes and it can have a negative knock-on effect elsewhere along the coastline, and it can also look quite obtrusive, which means unnatural, having a negative effect on the landscape. We're going to look at a few different types of hard engineering. The first one's a seawall, which is a concrete or rock barrier which is placed at the foot of a cliff, and that reflects wave energy back towards the sea. The key advantage of a seawall is it's really effective at preventing the coastline retreating. Also, it creates a walkway known as a promenade for people to walk along, which is good for tourism. Disadvantage is they look really unnatural, so most people would say they're quite obtrusive. They're expensive. It costs 5 million to 10 million for 100 metres of seawall, depending on how tall it is and the materials you use. And it also has high maintenance costs because it's constantly being eroded by the power of the waves. Next up, we've got groins. These are wooden or concrete barriers that are perpendicular to the coastline, and they're designed to trap sediment that's being moved by longshore drift. This causes the beach to become wider, and then we have a larger beach to act as a buffer which absorbs wave energy, which prevents the coastline from being eroded. The main advantage is this wider beach helps absorb the wave energy, but it's also there for tourism in the summer. Tourists can come and sit and sunbathe on the beach. The groins can also be used for people to go fishing off. Compared with a seawall, they're much cheaper, £75,000 for 100 metres. That's based on having a groin every 200 metres. Disadvantage, they interrupt longshore drift, which means beaches further on the coastline are starved of sediment, so that can cause accelerated erosion further down the coastline. Some people might also think they look obtrusive and unnatural, but that's obviously quite a subjective opinion. Rock armour, this is where piles of boulders dumped to the foot of a cliff. The rocks force the waves to break. This absorbs the wave energy, which protects the cliffs. Much cheaper than the seawall, £200,000 for 100 metres, and they're easy to maintain. Once you've dumped the boulders at the foot of the cliff, you haven't got to do anything else. They also create interesting new features at the coastline that can be used for fishing. Disadvantages, rocks usually from other parts of the coastline, so it doesn't really always blend in with the local area. So some people might find it looks quite obtrusive. Also, it's quite a large carbon footprint associated with transporting that amount of rock around the coastline. The final type of hard engineering is gabions. These are wire cages filled with rocks that can be built up to support a cliff or absorb wave energy. These are the cheapest method of hard engineering, only cost £50,000 for 100 metres, and they may eventually become covered in vegetation, which helps them merge in with the landscape. Disadvantage: before they become vegetated, they look really unattractive, and the wire cages can only last for 5 to 10 years before they rust, so they need a lot of maintenance. Soft engineering: this is the preferred type of coastal management these days because it's generally considered more sustainable and it's cheaper. If they're cheaper, then we've got less taxpayers' money being spent protecting the coastline, so we've got more money for things like the NHS or schools or fixing potholes, etc. However, they may require more maintenance. The first one we're going to look at is beach nourishment and reprofiling. This is where we have sand or shingle, which is dredged offshore and transported to the coast by a barge, which is a large ship. The shingle is then shaped by bulldozers to produce a natural looking beach which absorbs wave energy. This photo is taken in Eastbourne and it shows the beach reprofiling. This is normally done outside the summer season, so if you went to Eastbourne in the summer, this would look like a perfectly natural beach with loads of people enjoying the coastline. But for the rest of the year, you might have people working on it, reprofiling the beach, moving the sediment around. A key advantage of beach nourishment is it's relatively cheap. It's £500,000 for 100 metres. It blends in with the existing beach as it looks natural and it helps create a bigger beach for tourism. Disadvantages: needs constant maintenance. Unless you build groins to stop the sediment being transported away by longshore drift, you're going to have to constantly re-nourish and reprofile the beach. Next type of soft engineering is dune regeneration. Sand dunes are really effective buffers against the sea, but they're really fragile as well. People trampling over them damages them, which is known as destabilisation, and that means that the wind can just blow the sand away. To re-stabilise the dunes, help them grow larger, you can plant marram grass. That marram grass binds the sand together, and as it grows, it can help trap more sand, which helps the sand dunes become larger and therefore a bigger buffer against the wave energy. You can also put fences in, which are used to keep people off the dunes and stop people trampling over the marram grass and destabilising them. Really cheap, only £200 to £2,000 for 100 metres, and helps maintain a natural coastal environment. It's popular with people and wildlife, helps maintain biodiversity at the coastline by providing habitats for animals. Disadvantage is people don't always respond well to being prohibited from accessing planted areas. They might jump over the barriers, for example, and trample the dunes anyway, and they can be damaged by large storms, so they need lots of maintenance. Dune fencing involves constructing fences in front of a dune system. That helps protect the existing dunes and may help the creation of embryo dunes, so enlarging the dune system and creating a larger barrier to absorb wave energy. Really cheap again, £400 to £2,000 per 100 metres, and they have a minimal impact on the natural environment, and they can also stop people walking across the dunes as they act as a barrier. Disadvantages: the fences become broken quite easily, so they need lots of maintenance after storms in particular, otherwise they start to look rather unsightly. Just looking at a couple of examples of places that are using coastal management strategies. Seaford, somewhere we visited on the Year 8 trip. The town of Seaford contains lots of high value property and it's protected by this nice wide sandy beach that you can see in the photo here. The red arrow shows the direction of longshore drift, which is towards the southeast, and this is because the wind on the south coast, the prevailing wind, comes from the southwest. If we zoom in, you can see a few different features here. We've got the nice wide sandy beach, that's maintained by beach nourishment and reprofiling. We've got the old Victorian groin here, that's in a state of disrepair, it's no longer maintained. The main structure preventing the sediment being transported away is this terminal groin, which was built in the 1990s. That prevents the majority of the sediment being transported down the coastline, but some sediment does travel around the groin, which means that the beach is renourished every year, and reprofiling occurs where sediment is transported from this end of the beach towards the northwest, so working in the opposite direction to longshore drift. Just east of the Victorian groin, we've got these tetrapods, which are a type of rock armour. Immediately after the groins, there's no sediment at all to protect the coastline, so we find we get accelerated rates of coastal erosion here. So the tetrapods have just been put in to prevent that coastal erosion and stop the area behind the groins being eroded. Further down the coastline, we don't have any high value property that needs protecting, so this area is not protected at all, and you can see the wave cut platforms being formed as the cliffs retreating rather quickly in comparison to the rate of erosion in Seaford, where it's effectively been prevented by the nice wide sandy beach. We also visited Burling Gap on the Year 8 coast trip, which is just down the coastline from Seaford. At Burling Gap, we've only got a few buildings. We've got the National Trust Cafe and Gift Shop, and then a row of Coast Guards cottages and a car park. So the government have done a cost-benefit analysis at Burling Gap and realised that the benefits aren't going to outweigh the costs of protecting the coastline here. So the strategy they're using is managed retreat. That just involves knocking down buildings when they get near to the edge so they don't collapse into the sea in a dangerous way and perhaps hurt people on the beach. They also move the steps back periodically to make sure they're safe and people can still get down onto the beach in the summer to have a nice day out at the coast. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I'll upload the slides to the Google Drive so you can go through the slides at your own speed and take some notes. And when you've learned the information, you can do the Google form quiz.